What time we got?
8:35.
Pretty bad.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty bad.
Rather than verbally going through this.
Okay. So let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Because we've got the minutes in front of us and got them here, we'll have a chance to read through them. With changes.
There's only one. I hate to be one that brings it up. There's what's written September instead of October. The meeting that we're having next Tuesday. It said September the 18th.
Oops.
Yeah. The only reason I noticed is I'm going to that meeting.
I was at that meeting too, and I didn't notice. So that's October.
Yeah.
I think when I wrote that, I thought it was September, because I wrote that on the
Sure.
14th or something. Yeah, so I
Yeah.
thought it was.
Right.
I didn't know if it was a month out something.
Yeah. And
I have a logical explanation for that.
yes,
Snafu.
trust me, I get it.
Right.
And thank you for joining in.
No problem. No problem.
So, yeah. So
However, there's some adjustments to them here.
Karen went through and made adjustments. That's why.
Is that all in the red here?
If you can read it, please. I had a chance to read it this morning, so. And Karen, thank you for doing that, so we have this, so we're not trying to do it verbally. It's very nice.
I have one question. on the house manager's report part, since the board year-end report, it was written as the numbers from Kathy's reports would be used, or numbers would come from Kathy's report. And you change it to the numbers from Kathy's reports would be included. I kind of remember we did specify that we would use her numbers in the report, so I think the original statement is better. It's more to what we discussed.
Well, there's much that in the report than just numbers from
I know, but it didn't say anything else, it just says, it was termed that the numbers would come from Kathy's report. I mean, I know we made that statement, so.
I don't have an issue with it, because we will be including her numbers, period.
I just wanted to,
Yeah,
I made
that's
it
where
clear.
it's
Yeah,
coming from.
Yeah, that's where the numbers are coming from.
yeah,
and
it was, made clear that we would use her numbers.
It is the
for-
numbers,
Yeah. So, do you want those changes? I personally find it's fine with the change of the September to October meeting, and then other than that, I think it's in good form. But you guys put forth what you'd like to do.
I don't know what it's gonna look like, so. Yeah, I've never seen one, so I'm just saying, I don't know if the wording needs to be changed or if this is
It's just
sufficient.
semantics,
Semantics.
we kind of made it clear that we would use her
Yeah.
numbers.
Right,
That's why you got the wrong with the way it was. It's all
yes.
similar.
And it's similar,
Yeah.
it was kind of clear that, that would be like the baseline would be her numbers.
Right.
Right.
I
So,
don't know what else we'd use.
Yeah, exactly. Out of a choice of one.
Right.
guys, I need a motion that we either accept the changes or go back to the original. I personally find that there's no problem with the changes that have been made because it's clear that we're going to be using the numbers from the report. So I think it's semantics. I personally have it fine with the changes that have been made, but I need a motion from somebody.
Just a comment.
I move that we accept the report the way it's been amended.
Okay. Can I get a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Who is the second? I'm sorry. I heard
Janet.
Yeah, no.
All in favor?
Janet.
Aye.
Let me introduce you.
I just heard a voice over there. It's like, which one of you said that?
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Is it okay if we go ahead and sign it as is?
No, I'll print it without the red line.
Okay,
We'll
great.
fix the October and we'll sign it at the end of the meeting.
All right, just checking. All right, moving on. House manager's report.
Still busy. Booking like crazy.
Yay.
Booked another November event, booked a couple more weddings for next year. We're up to 7.
Wow.
So it's been nuts. And juggling landscaper issues. They came and turned water off last week. It's like, what are you doing? So we're busy reinstating turning the sprinklers back on. And
Oh.
yeah, it was like, what are you doing? It's like, apparently the person doing it did not read his schedule. We weren't scheduled till later in October.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, still working out the kinks with the new owners of Bro, and just doing a lot of delayed maintenance stuff. All the carpets are clean. He did a fabulous job, and he's going to come back in a couple of months and clean the kitchenette floor too. So he's trying to get his hands on a smaller buffer so that it fits better in residential settings.
Mm.
So just plugging along, updating the pricing for next year with the revised equipment prices and staffing prices, so that from here forward, we'll have correct pricing for 2023. So, and the difference in the packages range between $200 and $400 depending on the number of guests. So the packages are going up between $200 and $400 each. So, and most of that is equipment. It's the equipment. The chairs started this year at $265, and next year they're going to be $3.50 a piece. That gives you just an idea. So for a 100-person wedding, that's a $100 increase just for chairs. So everything went up. Chairs went up, tables went up, linens went up, delivering went up, everything's gone up. So that's that work's almost done. We're gonna put it in the packets probably this week. So just plugging along. I'll be gone next week on vacation. So if you're looking for me, I'll be on the beach.
Nice.
I'm going to Florida.
Oh, good for you.
Good timing. Hope there's no hurricane.
Well, I'm gonna be on the East Coast, so it's not.
Yes, so you're,
Not as.
There's
likely,
no
but-
forming right now.
It almost always rains
Yeah.
a couple days, but
Yeah.
Other than that, it's usually fun.
great, good for
So,
you.
so does anybody else have any questions in regards to Kathy about our report?
Sounds good.
Okay, can I get a motion, please? To accept your report?
We accept the report and minutes, the meetings and meeting minutes of this meeting.
Can I get a second, please?
I'm sorry, I think we have to incorporate her report in the minutes of our meeting. So
All in
that-
favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, moving on.
And I said you seconded it.
Open mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Just thought I mentioned.
Just so you know, you did that. even if
Yeah,
you're
you
not
did that
working.
by saying, we're gonna be voting on it.
Okay, on to old business, the status of the grant projects.
So the the bids are due Friday. There's a kickoff meeting from the selection committee on Friday, and then we won't meet again until after everything's been scored by the individual participants. So since a lot of people are on vacation next week, my guess is that scoring is not going to happen until toward the end of the month.
I'm sorry, and it's my fault, my problem is a kickoff meeting?
Just the people who will be scoring the responses are getting together on Friday to just go through the rules. That's what purchasing calls it, is a kickoff meeting.
Okay, just
So,
a verification.
We did have a pre-bid mandatory meeting for the companies that wanted to bid. We had 7 contractors there, and went very well. Took about an hour and a half. They walked around, measured, and talked, and learned about the rules for responding, and went quite well. So that's about all the news I have. Just in process.
Hopefully some of them were the ones that we were hoping that we could,
Yes, some of them were, although I can't comment.
I know. Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions board members have in regards to the grant process?
And I haven't spoken to Ann yet, but she's on my list. She's been out
To be checking
about the grant, the
the
potential for further funding.
All right. Okay, great. Moving right along, on to our 2022 open houses in the Santa. Woo, right around the corner here, guys.
Amazing.
So we all know we need to be here the whole time, right? So we all need to make sure that that's on our calendar and we're not gonna be. How about
No beach vacation.
Yeah, unfortunately, no. All
Well, Santa's fun, that's a
the,
fun.
you know, the beach in December.
I don't know.
It's fabulous.
December 2nd, and that's right after, I might have a nervous day.
You might have a nervous
But, or I could just be really.
Just have a zombie.
Hopefully.
And then another thought, hi Marina, should we go ahead and check in with some of our alumni to see if they'd like to come and help be docents or,
The Santa open
yeah.
house. I think that would be a good idea, because if we can't all be here for the full period, hey, somebody might want to come and do that because it could be considered a fun opportunity. And I think it's, again, another way that we can reach out to past board members and reconnect and see if they're still interested in helping and whatnot. So
Sound okay?
that sounds good to me.
I would not recruit too many, 2 or 3,
Yeah.
maybe 4 if
That's
you're
why I
split
always do
shifts.
it anyway.
Yeah.
I think
and then-
I think we're here for the whole time, so it wouldn't be a shift thing,
It
but,
could be for the past board members.
What are the hours of it?
yeah.
It's 3:30 to 8,
So we need to be here when?
3:15.
So we need to be here at 3:15. And
Probably
plan
to
be
8:15.
here until 8:15.
Or until we're done.
Yeah.
And it is Janet's birthday, so if she has company,
Oh,
she may
happy
have
birthday.
something
Did we
else
do
to
this
do.
to you last
You
year?
never
She did.
know.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
son
I remember.
surprised me. I can't help it. Excuse me. So who knows what happened?
Yeah.
Well, that's one of those things with the surprise. You don't know.
I
That's
don't know, and I don't get to
That's
see them
cool.
that often either, my kids, so I take it away.
You bet.
Family first.
Yeah, they're first too.
Okay, well, I had no idea. Happy birthday. So is it the second, truly the second? Okay. Okay, so, on that subject, Karen, would you be willing to, which, honestly, should it come from the secretary, Karen, or should it come from, who's willing to do it?
To do what?
To reach out to the past board members?
I can do it.
Can be like.
Karen's got all the contact information
Oh, yeah,
from the
I don't
team.
have any of
Just
it.
because it's.
So that-
I'd have to get it from you, so.
She'd be more than willing to share.
I'm glad to do it I'm glad to do
I
it if you
have
want
no
me to.
problem doing it.
It would probably be nice if that list, everybody had that list.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, I think that's a great idea. So we have everybody's things. Is there anything else that we need to do in regards to the Santa Open House? Do we have the schedule and everything set up on? I mean, we figured out all the timing and stuff last year. Unfortunately, due to my mother's death, I wasn't here at that time, but I believe it worked out really well, and so we're not recreating the wheel in any way, shape, or form, are we?
So the registration and all is the same kind of setup, right? Except you all are doing something a little bit differently so that there's not a confusion of how
It'll-
many people can get into a slot.
It will confuse people, actually, no matter what we do.
Yeah, that's
There'll be
right.
somebody
Good
that's
point.
lost.
Well, and, you know, like last year, Kathy and I kept a close eye on it, got clarifications, got people arranged the way that we were looking to arrange them.
Right.
So, we'll do the same thing this year.
The difference will be that they'll need a registration for each person instead of one registration serving for 4. And we haven't quite decided when we're gonna open it, but it'll be mid-November and we'll advertise it when we do.
My question is, do we need to meet before at any point, because we did meet in the past in regards to.
I don't think so.
So you're just gonna use the same kind of language.
We're gonna use the same, we're just
Okay.
changing it to reflect the difference in registrations. And we're getting inquiries already, but frankly, opening it this early would just mean more work in terms of making sure people are coming. And I think we would have a lot more no-shows, whereas if you do it 2 weeks before the event, the commitment level and the awareness of people's calendars will be much higher.
Yes.
And we won't spend as much time, canceling people and, re-entering people off the wait list and all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff.
I am not even suggesting that we
sure.
open it earlier. I'm just asking is if we as board members need to meet
I don't
to
think
do
so.
anything as far
No, we need to come decorate, but we've already got that on the calendar.
that's on the calendar and stuff, so
Yeah.
I accept it, so.
When will go in constant contact?
It would go probably
The
right
Thursday
as it's
opening,
open.
yeah.
I mean, it will be filled probably within 10 minutes of it going out, so, it's something to
It'll be the-
consider about doing
So
a
will it be
lottery
like
in
the
future
Thursday
years.
before it opens?
Yeah, it'll be the Thursday before it opens.
Well, I still think we should consider that we might wanna do more than one. If we're having so many people and it is such a positive, why recreate the wheel, and if we already got a good system, there's something to be said that we might do it more than one day.
Not this year, but.
Not this year,
Next,
not this
maybe.
year, but for future dates, it's something to be
Agreed.
considered.
Well, and some of that depends on Santa's availability too,
Right.
because he has lots of gigs.
Well,
So we'll
But-
talk about that coming into next year.
But we could also maybe look at getting an additional Santa room if we need to.
Mhm.
Okay, so moving on to the house manager's pictures project. Do we have the
Rails.
rails?
I did not order it yet, for a couple reasons. Are you aware that there's already a picture rail up there?
A wooden one?
Yes.
Um,
So,
one of the issues is that we wanted to have the metal one instead, so we're not,
I want to damage the.
wanna damage the wood.
Antique existing in,
I don't think it would hurt it at all. That's what it's designed for. So I looked at it, and those wires are 6 feet long.
Mhm.
So the wires are going to go all the way, almost all the way to the floor. They don't quite get to the edging, to the trim.
Yeah, but we can shorten those as needed.
Okay, they're pretty fragile, and if you mess with them, then they don't hang straight. So if you start cutting them and bending them, they don't hang very straight. I've used them for signage in a trade show booth. And the other concern I have is the weight of the pictures. Are the frames going to be fairly small? Because if there's no weight on the wires, it's not going to hang straight.
has to be-
I mean, they're really designed for bigger frames, for art gallery kinds of showings.
well, one
So-
string is going to hold.
One
several
string should hold
pictures.
three to four pictures,
Okay,
so there will be enough weight. That
so it's still pretty nominal. They're like 4x6 or 5x7.
They'll vary.
Okay,
and we were planning on using more like antique frames or time period frames for
Okay.
for that period. So some could be pretty
so we need hooks for every picture. That was the other thing I was confused about. We need hooks for every picture.
Mhm.
Do we know how many pictures we have so far?
We have all the pictures that we're going to.
I just
that
want a
you
number.
remember.
Well, because
So I just want to order it all at once.
we're putting a frame for every person, so
Okay.
it doesn't
You know the
matter
list
if
that's
it's
in the book?
But you need a hook for every frame.
yes.
So I need to know how many frames so I
list
can
that's
get
in
the right
Sanborn
number.
book plus 5.
Okay,
Just a quick question on the rail. I haven't really seen it in action before, but that's kind of a narrow hallway where you're gonna use it. Now, if people walk by fast and bump their shoulders against it or something, is that gonna make everything the same?
it
No.
is, but if there's enough weight, it'll go
It
back where it
shouldn't.
should.
It shouldn't. It really shouldn't. I mean,
Yeah, I just was wondering, because it's such a narrow hallway up there.
it is a narrow hallway, and I would like to think that we're going to use the whole hallway. One of the things we had discussed is about moving where that coat rack.
There's
Six.
really nowhere else to put it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be there. There's really nowhere else to put it that it doesn't interfere with something else.
Well, it would be better to move it. If it cannot go into the closet room, then it may be better to put it in the meeting room, but more toward where that little sofa is right now. Because nobody's going in and out that door anyway.
We use that coat rack whenever there's an event, and sometimes we have events upstairs and downstairs.
Mhm.
So if we put it in the meeting room, then the people downstairs don't have access to it. So the hallway is really the best place for it.
I disagree. I think it's
Maybe we can think that through a little
It's,
bit more.
I think it's
Maybe we can-
cluttery, and I think it's impeding on the walkway up there. I do, and I think it would be better if we moved the coat rack.
Most of the egress is through the meeting room itself. So people don't use, that hallway doesn't get used for anything but the coat rack, literally. It can't go in the closet, that's our only storage area. And that's also where we put the desk when we have events.
Mhm.
The
So,
porch is a storage area as well. So
we
it doesn't
need
have to be
both. We need both, they're both full. So I'm unwilling to give up storage space.
Well, maybe we can think through and see if there's another possible place that would be appropriate for coat rack.
I mean, is there any way that we can reorganize the storage?
We reorganize it all the time. I mean,
That
Get rid of
it
everything.
goes through the door to crochet, so we could set it there.
we could, but I don't think it's very nice looking.
It's functional. It's not gonna be nice looking anywhere.
I understand,
But
but where it's at,
least
it's
there,
very,
it is not,
and I think
potentially fire hazard.
getting it
you know,
up and
getting
down the
people through
stairs
hallway.
is problematic.
Well, it might mean that it has to have a new permanent home downstairs.
But the meetings are mostly upstairs.
Yeah, but they come in the front door.
Well,
I'm not really crazy about putting it downstairs.
Can we give it some thought?
I will
Let's
give it
just
some
let
thought.
it simmer. Let's just.
where
let
did you
let
put it down here?
Just there,
the
where
foyer.
nobody goes through the door to the portico shop.
That foyer is so pretty though.
I know everything is pretty in here, so, but functional, you know, if we're gonna have a coat rack.
You kinda gotta have a coat
I'm sorry, I missed
rack. You gotta have a coat rack.
Yeah, that comes in handy.
Well, and the thing I appreciate about this project is that if you do it and you get the board up or the bar up, hang the pictures, y'all look at it and go amazing, it's awesome. Y'all look at it and go, huh, interesting, and take it down and move it around, or like the coat rack can move. You can look at it and go, not what I thought it would be, and you can move it back. You're not tearing down a wall,
Right.
you're not
Yeah, not
pouring
making
anything in
permanent.
concrete. I mean, there's.
Well, that's part of the reason why we wanted to do the hanging system in first is no damage to the walls. That we can move it or rearrange it as needed. We also wanted to utilize that wall for not only the manager's pictures, but we're looking at doing the board appreciation, and we're trying to figure out how to manage to fit everything.
Right.
Currently, that wall we want to use for the manager's pictures and acknowledging the work that they've done. And I think, and then when you come up the stairs, the coat rack's right there, and it's actually takes up a lot of space. And to me, that's somewhat of a fire hazard and an issue. I agree with Kathy. I don't necessarily want it down here, but it would be more functional if it was down here because it takes away from the prettiness of the parlor. But
It's so impressive when you first come in.
Yeah,
but
we have to move it for Christmas.
could we move it? I think you'd be better off moving it into even to the bride's room or into the meeting room, but leaving it right in the hallway there, that's, so then you come back down to, is there any way that we can rearrange storage that we can use the closet for its purposes, this closet? Is there any way that we can rearrange the storage from the closet into the porch area and just use the porch area as storage?
I think we have to go up there and stand there and look at it while we have that discussion.
Does the coat rack have to move to do the pictures? I don't remember that as
No.
per previous
There's
discussions.
enough room for what they're doing now.
So
I looked
if
at
we're
it-
talking about something that's future, then
But I think if you're looking at a hanging system, Ben, we were planning on using the whole wall. We weren't just planning on
but
just.
do we need the whole wall right now is my question.
No.
Because that's,
Six
again, the
stitches.
beauty of the hanging
You're hanging
system.
three
is
on
that it can
strings, so
expand
you only have
out.
three
Yeah.
strings.
Right.
I think if you're gonna plan for a hanging system, you plan to use the whole wall, even if you don't necessarily incorporate it. If you're serious that we're gonna use it and hang it onto the wood, and you have no problem that we're hanging it onto the wood, which could cause damage,
Or we're gonna poke holes in the wall, so that
That was
causes
gonna be my
damage too.
question, how much damage to the wall does that?
That's-
Because
Not
they're
that
antique
much.
walls too.
They are antique walls, but they're a limited amount of anchoring compared to what you would do for each individual picture. So that was one of the reasons why we looked at it and we discussed it, is did we wanna use the hanging system, or did we wanna use the current wood that was in there? It was about the historic preservation of it and trying to do as little damage as possible.
The other point I would make is it's very hard to get anchors in the plaster for anything. So even trying to anchor the rail might be very difficult.
Yeah, I realize that because the horsehair plaster,
There's just nothing to latch onto.
Right.
yeah. So that's why we were trying to hook it, and it would go the full length of the wall, and we'd look at trying to hook it into something that's behind it,
Structurally stable.
Well,
structurally
The
stable.
problem is there isn't anything behind it.
Not like it's
It's
today's construction.
there's no 2x4s, there's nothing to hook it to. So, I mean, when we tried to hang this picture, it came down like 6 times before we finally got it to stay up. Yeah, it was, and they finally had to screw it into the brick. Upstairs, there's no brick.
Right, that's an interior wall.
They didn't use 2x4 framing?
It's all plaster on laid, so there's a layer of stuff that's not hard.
Right.
So I don't know if we can get it anchored in or not. I can talk to facilities and see what they think.
That's a
But
good
see, if we're
idea.
going from
Some
door
experts.
frame to door frame, I thought at least there would be an anchoring process right within that period, that area. And
Right
that's,
within what, I'm
so
sorry.
the
Door
From
frames,
door
within
frame
the
to
door
door
frame.
In the doors.
where the door frame is.
Where there has to be something.
There is something.
Let me talk to facilities and see what they think about
Hanging
hanging
it
it.
off of the wall by the
Yeah,
stud.
find the old stud finder.
Yes, so where is this studs?
I'll ask them to come check, because we really had a hard time hanging that picture. Of course, it's heavier than what we're talking about. The other thing I wanted to know is, do you want aluminum or white? It comes in 2 different colors.
I think we go with aluminum, but
Where's the wall?
Yeah,
you
what's
have
the
a-
It's
wall?
kind of off-white.
Do you have a preference?
Try to match the wall as close as possible.
Yeah, I would think white would be better.
I mean,
do you
whichever,
think white would be better? The thing is, as you move the pictures, it's gonna, that
Is it gonna scar it?
the color will, it'll shift. The aluminum, you've got what you've got, and that's, if you wanna go with white, that's fine too, but I personally.
they're pretty thin wires, right?
Mhm.
So really, it's kind of a non-issue. No,
Yes,
it's gonna
I-
look at wires.
So if we wanna go with white, that's fine.
I think that they're that thin from, I'm envisioning this right.
They're
The
not
aluminum is
overly,
fine.
Yeah, they're
They're pretty
Yeah.
sturdy.
Yeah.
they're pretty sturdy,
I
they're
think
not,
it's fine to go with aluminum then. 'Cause
I personally would
If
just go
there's
with the
any,
aluminum.
if you're moving anything and it is scratching, or removing any white paint from, because I imagine it's painted over aluminum.
That would be my guess.
Let's just stick with aluminum, let's keep it
It's fine.
simple.
I prefer, I'll argue with that.
Wires.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
The-
if it's
the
so
point
big
is-
then, will
the
it
point is-
show?
so-
The weight, I don't want the pictures big, crooked, hanging there. So yeah, that would work bad.
The other thing I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call the museum. They use that stuff all the time.
Right.
And just see if they have any recommendations.
Mhm.
They may have a system they already use that they've had really good luck with.
I did do
Okay,
that
okay.
research, I did do
Okay.
that research, and this is used in the museums, this specific product. I also went to the Great Frame Up and talked to the owner there, and I did, and we used the system when we did the, framing in, the old firehouse, and also when we had the, art studio of the Muse. This is
Okay.
the system we used.
Okay, perfect.
Sounds great.
That research is done.
So the wire, does it attach to the bottom so that the pictures are not going like this?
You know, you.
It hangs
So
They're
you
really-
really have to have that weight, otherwise we're gonna be a mess.
But that's why we're talking about doing 3 to 4 frames.
On
And
each.
And we're not talking
Birthday
about
and
not
honor.
doing super light frames. We're talking about doing, okay, think about a frame that you would do for the 1920s. So it's gonna be heavier, more Art Deco, probably glass. It's weighing it down.
Right, it's
So-
not gonna sway.
So, and the big thing is, depending on what art projects you use, or you hang, it's gonna be substantial enough that it could hold weight, but also not so, the wire is not so, bendable that it's gonna be up against the wall.
Yeah, these systems can use in museums.
And not all art pieces are enormous. Some
But
are
I agree
small.
with him, that why are we talking about the coat rack until we get pictures?
Because we're talking about the whole wall. If you're gonna do it.
Well,
you
I
should-
think we should do figure out the wall first and then see.
I'll get it ordered.
Yeah.
Is it aluminum?
We're gonna use it, so,
Okay.
yeah.
But let's get to moving the cool racks and on, because at some point, let's let that simmer for now, obviously.
Right.
But, at some point, that's, we gotta talk about that.
Okay, moving on, so we'll get the wire, the hanging system ordered. But I want a clarification, you're gonna be talking to, Kathy, you're gonna be talking to,
I'll talk to
Facilities.
facilities about where's the
Where-
best way to anchor.
Yes.
Well, and if they think we can anchor it. So I will talk to them.
Okay.
See if they can find something to hook it to.
Okay, moving right along and still in the same, point, past and present board members wall acknowledgement project.
How did how did it go with getting that stationery to the graphic?
We've got a high quality scan and it's on their list. It's on their list
Cool.
of things to do.
And I'm sure they've got quite a list, right?
They do.
Yeah.
I get 15 minutes of her time today at 3 o'clock.
Okay, so that just says, you got, 15 minutes, all right, you better talk fast.
Yes, yes, so,
Okay.
We've given this 2 minutes, so we better
Okay,
say.
thank you so much,
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate that. Okay, we can actually, unless somebody has something to say about the scrapbooks, Connie didn't comment to me about anything more about the scrapbooks, so I have nothing to add to that point. Unless you ladies have something for the scrapbooks or in regards to that. Okay, moving on to the Callahan House Advisory Board Annual Report. We have a meeting set for the 18th. And we'll be talking about how we're gonna incorporate the past 3 years in the report.
That's 10 o'clock, right?
Yes.
Here.
Yep. And that's basically all the short and sweet on that one.
So 2021 and 22?
Correct.
Or it's
Those
3
years.
Yeah, okay, just making sure.
Sorry, whole mind block there for a minute. Yes, happy that's what we're talking about. Okay, on to the board retreat agenda. And look at, Kathy was kind enough to print out.
Oh, good. Oh, sorry.
No,
My foot, no big deal.
Okay, so we're basically looking at Article 5. Duties of officers.
But we decided last month not to have a vice chairperson, so he would be eliminated.
Correct. Well, yes and no. I think we should have it stated on who should be handling. Okay, if it isn't gonna be the vice chair that should take over to run the meeting, if the president's, then who should be the next person in line? Secretary or?
Is
or
that, is that
historian?
included within Robert's Rule of Order?
It should be, yeah, but it's normally listed as the next officer, and I'm not sure. Wait, I
The
just
only thing
have-
about having the secretary is she's busy taking
Well,
notes.
No.
yeah,
That
So
way,
then who
yeah.
runs
That's
the
a
Been
meeting?
there, done that, that's,
Then you
it's
just-
tough
yeah.
to do both.
So
That's
then I
why
think because it falls to the next officer, then
It should be the historian. I think it's helpful if it's clearly stated.
Or
Somebody-
somebody who wants to do it.
Yeah, some,
How about a volunteer
the
basis?
closest volunteer.
That's happened. I mean, we're not
Do
the
you want to do it
Senate.
as a volunteer?
Yeah, that's how we've done it in the past.
Sure.
Yeah, since we're kind of a small,
Almost everybody's done it at some point.
yeah, you could say a past president could just do it, but most people have been past president, chairpersons, so. I would say a volunteer basis.
A volunteer basis
Yeah.
or past chair or?
I would say volunteer because anybody might not have a good reason or might not be able to do it that way. There's always somebody who will step up and do it.
Okay, I still think it's better if we just put it in and so it's clear. So
I
if
think it's fair
anybody's,
to say volunteer.
okay, that's great. So let's add that and say volunteer.
Because
Let's
you
do
never
a
know
vice
who's
chair.
going to be volunteer.
So where were you putting that? I'm sorry. I went to some
Under
water.
B,
Okay.
Under B.
where it says vice chairperson, there won't be one of those, it'll be a volunteer.
Why don't we just swing it up under chairperson and make it, that's what I was, under
Right,
Part
or
one.
something.
where it's like preside at all meetings of the advisory board. Okay, and then the second sentence can be, should the chairperson be absent, a volunteer board member will serve in
Yes,
this capacity.
that's better. Thank you. And then we just move everybody up. Secretary to B, historian
B,
C.
What was the color coding?
Yeah,
White was
it's,
original, yellow is,
suggested language, and blue is the language that's currently in there suggesting.
To be removed.
On secretary, number 2, that's fine the way it's written, but don't, normally we send them to Kathy because she's got to publish them. So instead of sending it to the chairperson for distribution, we send to house manager.
yeah, that's the way we
Chairperson
get
That's how we've
can't
been doing it.
distribute it.
Huh?
Technically, the chairperson can't distribute it.
Yeah, so it should go to the house manager.
So what we did do several years ago was the secretary would get it to the chairperson because that person then would have to be the second supervisor to prove it and check it and go, okay, this is correct, or wait a minute, this needs to be corrected or that needs to be changed or whatever.
I don't
And
think
that's
that,
something we did do years ago and
Yeah, I don't
it
think
worked well and it made so that there was less
well,
time wasted.
I don't think there's a problem in the sense of if we add more than one pair of eyes. So why don't we say chair
it could go to
and
both.
to both? Why don't we say that it goes to both? Because to me, that makes sense. That it goes to the chair as well as Kathy. Or a house manager. So why don't we provide them to the chair and the house manager? And we add that in, and the house manager. And I have no problem with removal of the vice chair, and then I have no issues with the the new language of adding it up and, that we just added in regards to having a volunteer replace. And then I have no problems with the removal of the bed language.
A3 refers to the executive committee, which has been,
We decided we didn't need that. That was last month.
Well, I think that the unofficial executive committee is the officers, so do we just need to change it so that the officers?
So it says officers instead of executive committee?
I don't know, where,
Where are we?
I think the more fingers we get in the agenda, the harder it's gonna be to publish it on time.
No, that has to do with the annual report, right? Is that what you're referring to?
no,
Sarah?
number 3, it says
Number
May
three.
3
Oh.
monthly
Oh, we're done.
agenda items.
Oh, A3.
A3,
I think that does go to the officers because usually, the officers of of a group provide, or prepare the agenda. So, and then submit it.
Currently, that's not happening.
yeah, that's not the way it's done now.
That's not happening.
It's the way it has been done in the past, but.
Yeah, but this is the present. I mean, the way it's been done since I've been.
I've been doing the agendas, for most of the time until Maureen came.
Years ago, we did it differently.
No, I've been doing the agendas the whole time I've been here, until recently.
Is it an issue, Maureen? Do you feel like you need
I think it's
sounding
important.
board? Or?
I think it's important that the committee has a say and I, Kathy, and I'm not trying to disagree with you, but I am gonna disagree with you because we're talking chairs, that's not how it's been done. They've always had their say on how the agenda's been set. So I think that it's important, even if we just write it as the officers receive a monthly agenda and support document. And then I don't think it should be all on Kathy to get supporting documents together. I really think that is adding to her duties, and I think that we as committee members can do some of that legwork. I don't think it's a bad thing to have the committee members have say in it. And the bottom line is, it goes through Kathy before it's put out in the first place. So the city has the final say in how the agenda goes out, because she's the one that is posting it for the rest of the and for the public. But I do think it's important that we, as a committee, have a say in what should be on the agenda.
In the past, Kathy would always ask for items to be put
That's
on the
not
agenda.
items, though. I think in
Well,
the
we always
regular-
get an email saying, do you have anything to add to the
Right.
agenda? I mean, I had no problem with that.
Right, because it kind of slows down the whole process.
And the other thing, I just wanna, you know, there's, 7 of us here, and I think to keep drawing lines saying, this is an executive committee, this is an officer. I think there's only 7 of us. If you want something sent out, send it to everybody.
We can't.
Say something.
You can send it to me though.
Yeah.
So if you have an
Right.
agenda item to add, you can certainly
Yes,
send it to
Right.
myself and the chairperson.
And as a small group, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
to me.
because we're putting so much division in here. It's,
I think it actually is more collaboration.
I don't think it's divisive. I don't like that. I don't think it's divisive at all. I don't think it's division. I think it is because we are a small committee. There's three. Three is half of the committee. So in a lot of ways, it's just adding more voices that are being heard. But if we want to write it in and say you would prefer that we do the email aspect, fine. Let's figure out how we're going to put it in and say that agenda items. But here's how do we put that in duties of officers? I mean, we're
Well-
looking at duties of officers.
It's kind of written in here. Receive the monthly agenda items, and supporting documentation from board members. Prepare a monthly agenda, meet the agenda itself is
Okay,
Somebody's got to sit down.
so
I
then,
mean, it already says that.
okay, so then we just take out the wording, with executive committee.
Correct.
For my experience that I'm seeing is you guys are creating your agenda for next week based on how you proceed through this
To the agenda.
this agenda this time, so, and people present provide input like new business,
Sure,
future
board
agenda
meetings.
items.
Right.
I've seen you guys do that. So I
Right.
just wanted to give you guys that observation. That
It just makes more sense to me. It's just simpler and.
Okay, so why don't we just take out the
Glad
word
that
with
coffee with you.
executive committee? Can we just take out the wording with
Yeah.
executive committee?
Yes.
I also think you need to take out the words Director of Community Services.
Where is that?
That,
Yeah, the
that's
next
not
sentence.
happening.
That's,
Oh,
that's not happening.
it's the
What's
way
Karen
Read
Roney?
Read the yellow one.
Okay, and yeah, that's from the past, because in the past, we had the director of community services and the house managers were two. And basically, that was Karen Roney,
that was our staff liaison.
that was our staff liaison.
Well, and the other comment I would have is I don't think it's gonna get published a week prior to the meeting.
Yeah, we talked about that before, in fact, we decided Friday before was,
Mhm.
because, yeah, I think that came up at the retreat, that deal about a week
It did.
before, and we voted that down.
I don't think we ever even got to this part.
I remember talking about it.
Yeah.
It was a
We
discussion,
talked about
and
it,
it came
it was
down to
discussion, but we never made a decision on it.
the,
Well, we did. We
The
did
Fri-
Fridays
the
before.
Friday
We
of
used
week
Friday
before
before, we
was-
made a
I
decision.
mean, that's why we're
Was sufficient.
doing it this.
Yeah.
Notice.
So,
Right,
I don't
we
know
talked
that it
about
was
it.
at the retreat, but it's
Yeah.
been a topic of discussion to
Yeah.
get that
It's
out.
been a
By
topic
the
of
Friday.
discussion,
In a
but we
board
never,
meeting,
Yeah,
not
by-
a retreat, but in a board
either
meeting,
way.
you're saying, hey, when are we to be looking for that? Because
Which
I
is,
think
that's
it was
5
a matter
days.
of you were looking for it and not finding it.
An option might be
like
5 or
like
more days
Friday or
in
whatever.
advance.
Right.
And then looking for
Instead of
the
saying-
weekend.
I would just say
That wasn't
that,
but this was discussed earlier, we decided not a week in advance.
So it's going to be by the Friday prior.
It's 5 days in advance of the meeting, basically.
Yeah.
By Friday, not 1 week, but by Friday.
I would put 5 days on the off chance that
Yeah.
change the date of your meeting.
although that could be a week. I mean,
Yeah.
well,
if
it's
you're at
possible
Friday,
that
then you can change it.
we have discussed that the meeting times and dates may change depending on
Who's on the board?
who's on the board and who gets served.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
I think we
Look
keep
at
it.
five calendars.
That's 5 days.
but it's, you could say,
Look at this.
so if you move, well, if you move your
I'm sure
meeting
it's not gonna
to
be
Thursday, then 5 days becomes Saturday, which
It
is a.
is like that.
Which is non.
It's, I would just say 5 days, calendar,
I just say
But
like
then it's
that.
by 5 days.
so we don't have to
By
keep
5
changing
days.
Right.
the bylaws. And it's
Right.
actually, it gets posted
That works.
by end of day Friday.
Yeah.
So technically, it could be 4 days before the meeting.
Well, the point though is that we run into a.
Daytime.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. I usually spend
By
the weekend
5
looking at
days
stuff
before.
anyway.
yeah. Technically, it only has to be posted 24 hours before. That's
Well,
the
past the
city
public,
rule.
but
For the
as a
public, but
courtesy
that's,
to
No, we've
volunteers.
all,
Board
we've all
Yeah.
agreed that the
5 days is fine.
So we're done.
okay. So looking at what we're gonna be taking out the contribute to the monthly agenda with, I think we say the staff liaison, and
Okay, which letter are you on now?
She's
I'm
still
still
on
on
three.
line.
Article
the white.
5A3. Prepare monthly board meeting agenda.
with staff liaison.
Okay.
Technically, I'm one of those two.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the point.
Yeah.
So we've got.
And I would just say 5 days prior to the board meeting. You don't need to say the next.
Yes. Right.
You want to say 5 weekdays, I mean, 5
Just
calendar days, so you don't get the business days in there.
You're saying 5
Just say
days.
5 days.
5 days, and I think it is important prior to the next board meeting, because that's a clarification that you're doing this before the next board meeting, not 5
Well,
days.
I think
prior
5 days
to
is
the board meeting. Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
So 3 is receive monthly agenda items and supporting documentation from board members, prepare monthly board meeting agenda.
With staff.
With,
I'm sorry, where are we at?
And
With staff liaison, she's just reading that.
and
Three.
the house manager, so the agenda will be posted along with the board meeting packet by 5 days prior to the board meeting.
I'm good with that. What do you think?
That works.
Okay, moving on to 4. I'm good with taking out, what?
So I wrote that one, right?
Okay, I'm good with taking out the blue and moving to the yellow, but what do you
One
guys
thing
think?
about the yellow, I think there's a little too much detail in there. I mean, different chairpersons and might have different ways of wording things, but you have, including board meetings, goals, accomplishment, house revenues, details of total gas saved to Callahan House.
Yeah.
Do we have to have all that in the bylaws?
I think we should have it stated what we are reporting on this.
Because the original one was just write and deliver to city council an annual report of board proceedings, Callahan House goals and accomplishment, house revenues, total client served. How is that really different from what was there before?
I think the clarification of what's been done in the past is, again, a clarification.
I don't have a problem with that, just as a new person on that, doing that. It gives me a
A
roadmap.
clear, that's exactly what I want. It's a roadmap. I want a clarification. That's part of the
I
reason
don't have a
why
problem with that.
I like it better, because it's clear and concise. So if I'm reading what the duties of that office is supposed to be
When I'm
doing,
preparing them,
I'm prepared to know what I'm doing, and I'm not flying
I have a
blind,
problem.
and I like that.
Okay.
then we bring it to the board, it looks like in December,
Yes.
but we often don't have a board meeting in December.
That's not true. We just didn't do it the last time.
last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a combination.
Between COVID and last year, I'm like,
Yeah, between everything, and it didn't help that my mother died that.
Well, that wasn't
and
her.
so it's
so sorry that happened, but
No, it's a,
Okay.
so it's a combination of why that meeting got
Okay.
canceled.
thank you. Anything else?
No, I'm good. Okay, so with the current changes that we've made, can I get a motion, please?
Are we done?
Oh,
Yeah,
did we
we
forgot,
see.
because I think we did. I thought we moved through it. Has everybody read anything? I thought we were gonna move it, take out B, and then move secretary
C is now
to
B.
B,
Yeah.
and D would be C. And anybody else have an issue? I thought we had gone through that, but
Karen, would you reread for me, please, what you think A3 is going to say? I just want to be sure I get it.
Receive monthly agenda items and supporting documentation from board members. Prepare monthly board meeting agenda with staff liaison and house manager. So the agenda will be posted along with the board meeting packet by 5 days prior to the board meeting.
That's what I thought.
I thought we were taking out the words house manager and just putting staff liaison.
No, I think it needs to be the two. They are.
Well,
I
and
think that's
practically,
Maureen had said in the first.
practically speaking, that one person off the city staff is probably planning to work on the agenda. The more people we pull in, the harder it's gonna be to get it published 5 days before the meeting.
I think it's acceptable to have it as the two. And even though Karen is no longer serving in her position.
Well, right now, your
That-
2 staff
that-
liaisons are sitting right here, and Swellen has not been involved in the agenda at all.
And
And
for
we're getting
now,
input
that's-
at the board meeting.
Yeah.
We're getting input.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna
guys at
say,
the board meeting.
That's my experience actively observing is that you guys are actually creating the agenda at the meeting, but.
And if you're at the meeting, you can say, next meeting, can we talk about, or whatever.
I like the ability, we know how we're doing it, but I think if we stated that she's included in the process, that if for some reason Gaffey isn't in that position and we need to put it through her, she's the next tier. And I think it's just, I personally, it's a clarification.
So why don't you just say staff liaisons,
And take out.
plural, and take out the word house manager, because we're both.
Yeah, they're both liaisons.
We're both
They are.
liaisons.
Yeah, they're both staff.
Liaison or liaison?
I think it's appropriate to have it as house manager and staff liaison.
Right. Because he is one.
Your job title is house manager.
And staff liaison,
Okay.
yes.
But for purposes of anyone stepping into something this new and going, okay, wait a minute,
Who's who?
who's who, and
Okay,
I just think for
I
clarification is easy, it's not going to cause any more work or any complication, it's just clear.
I see Karen's point, but I also see my point that it could be just staff liaison. I think for clarification from coming in blind and you know anything about this board, this is helpful. That's the only reason I like the
Having both of them.
having them both.
Although you're not probably gonna call Sue Ellen and ask her
I mean,
what she
most,
wants on the agenda.
It's okay.
on the board stuff on the internet, my title is staff liaison. It's not house manager. So somebody new to the board would have probably only seen that. Or somebody who's looking at it from the outside. Does it make sense?
Somebody new to the board will know you as house manager.
Yeah.
Let me just keep it that way.
It's fine.
simple.
It's not a big
It's
deal.
not
It's
going
not
to
gonna
It's fine.
change the world.
make anybody
It's gonna
laugh.
die.
Oh, there you go. We're good. Karen,
Okay.
redraft these and get them out, or get them to me so I can.
And I'll tell you what, I can, and how about if I provide them to you and you can.
That would be nice, then I like it.
Okay, and then moving on under the secretary, we had already discussed number 2, prepare written and provide them to the chairperson, and we had already added and
House
changed
manager.
and
Yes,
the
I
house
should
manager
have
at that point.
Which is, yeah, once again, the reason, house manager.
Okay, and then moving on to number 3, I don't think on 3 on item C, I thought we had looked at that. Is there any issues with removing of those words or changing the language? Okay, so I thought we had gone through everything. Is there any other issues or corrections? Okay,
I move we accept these changes as discussed.
I'll second that.
all in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on. Okay, board recruitment deadline and board application interviews.
I did.
All right, so I gave you each a copy of the modified interview template, so you can take a look at it. I think the important thing is we need to decide when we're gonna do the interviews.
So can I
Please.
butt in? So I had clarification being at Park and Rec Board Monday night. Jeff had talked about that when we talked about this back in May, there wasn't a ton of guidance on it. If you
Yeah,
remember.
absolutely.
The guidance they're giving is 1 to 2 board members do the interviews.
Oh.
That's the guidance that city clerk is giving. So that's what they're doing. And one of the main reasons Jeff talked about is that if you have the group, now you have a posted meeting, if you're doing that as a group. So that's what it was. So if you guys want to figure out who wants to be those 2 people.
Well, for us, I
That's the
thought we
guidance.
could have up to 3 and still not have it posted.
That's the guidance from city clerk. And I
They
can-
haven't
I
sent
can
out
check on
anything
that.
though.
That's what Jeff got.
Okay.
I hadn't heard that either.
Yeah, they
So,
have, I haven't seen anything.
You wanna check on that?
Yeah, I'll
Double
check on it.
And I just heard this on Monday night.
Okay.
Yesterday wasn't the day for me to follow up on.
Okay.
this.
I hear 1 to 2. I think it's better if we do 3, personally, because then it's more even paired.
I'm not against it.
I think if we are gonna, when we've had representation and doing stuff, what is it, others' thoughts are. We consider doing the full board, but.
That's what we decided last time.
Yeah,
And part of the problem is you'll have people from that board, they can't be involved in the interviews.
Right.
Because they'll be being interviewed,
Right.
so there's an issue there. But
Well, that's the whole, except people can recuse themselves from certain, like, for example, I'm going to be applying, and so I would recuse myself.
yeah, of course.
So, that being said, then we're down to this smaller group anyway. I personally don't.
Yeah, I'm not arguing it,
I
I will check with Michelle and see what they're telling people, and I also think we need to understand the schedule. I know that the city council interviews are set for December 10th, so that implies that we have to do the board interview process in November.
yeah, it does.
So,
And they, I think it was extended.
yeah, the
It was extended to
registrations
the
have been
24th.
extended, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get some quick clarification on that.
Yeah, it's been extended to the 24th, so I'm happy. It's like, please.
Do you have any candidates, more than one candidate?
There are 3 applications in the system, but Michelle told me that one of them's probably a dud, just because she applied to all kinds of boards, and it's been since May, and they haven't been able to get a hold of her or anything since then, so. At the moment, I have a list. Candy's applied, a lady we don't know has applied, and then this 3rd lady. I have a list here somewhere, I just got so many different
Yeah,
things
don't worry about it, I just,
under my.
general question there, you want.
I saw Candy a couple weeks ago, she said,
So,
Yeah.
Candy's done. That's very odd. Here it is, I'm sorry. Brittany Lynn Hastings. And then the 3rd lady that they think probably isn't serious, Kay Palmer Marsh. Said she
She was
applied.
put into all of them a long time ago and.
Yeah, she did. She applied back in May, and she applied to all kinds of boards. So Michelle told me she didn't think that was a legitimate application. So.
Okay.
And then I've heard from Diane Beerline, who indicated she was gonna put in an application, and
Okay,
one
so
other
that's-
lady, so.
And we have what, 3 openings?
Technically, I think we have 4.
On the board. Well, you're counting yourself and you're actually, you're just gonna read,
I'm gonna
so you're not a new person. But,
I am gonna reapply,
Yeah.
but it's been a month, so.
So-
I was relieved when Kathy sent the email. I was really at that process when Kathy said, it's been put off until the 24th. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah.
So, sorry. But too much information to be recorded, but.
Kathy, has something changed on this since the last time you saw it?
No, I just printed it again to make sure that the changes had actually been made, and to give everybody an opportunity to look at it before we did the interviews.
And I appreciate that. And I personally think we plow ahead with what we originally planned, but if we get instruction otherwise, I would recommend that there's 3 of us. I just think it's a better balance.
and your concern was the date
Well,
to do this?
We have to get it before city council, that is the 10th, you said, correct?
it's the 10th of December. But my point is, if we're gonna do it in November in conjunction with the board meeting, I think we need to decide that soon,
I think personally,
maybe today.
I think we decide it now.
Right, why are we waiting?
And we decided that we will be doing this at the November board meeting.
Okay,
I'm assuming that
Is it during?
that
the
they'll all be
board meeting, Or
vetted.
is it at the conclusion?
At the conclusion.
by then.
Okay.
I mean, with a deadline of the 24th, will city clerk have done all of their stuff by the 9th in order for us to do the interviews on the 9th?
God, I hope so. 'Cause
Well, I would hope so
if it's
too.
due
It
in
looks to me-
December, you would-
It looks to me like they're doing it now,
Right.
like as they
Yeah.
come in, they're doing it.
Well, when
So-
you ask that question.
All right, I'll add it.
We'll get
Question,
those two
yes,
clarifications.
and I think we might have touched on this a couple months ago. If the applicants will be at the November 9th meeting now for the, didn't we talk about doing it before, or ahead of the first thing, so that then they could leave?
I don't remember.
My understanding was that you guys were looking at 8 o'clock or 8:30, so we were meeting at 9 at that time.
Yeah.
That was an idea to allow some time.
And then they
Prior
wouldn't
to
stay
that,
for the
I think so.
meeting, because otherwise they're gonna have to
I
sit through the whole meeting.
think I think it's too early to force the, whoever is going
I mean,
to
we
be
could stick
doing
with our,
interviewing.
our regular
I was to be
opening
here
time.
before. I think it's better that we
I
have
was-
the interviews after the board meeting.
I was gonna say that as well, since that we've moved the meeting up, I think we do it at the conclusion of the meeting.
So we have a hard stop at like
Exactly. That's what I see.
Hard stop
at
meeting.
hard
10:30.
stop and start interviews at
Yes.
10:30 or,
Interviews start at 10:30.
or we could maybe plan for a shorter meeting and start the interviews at 10.
I
You know,
think we
just
keep what
have a
we normally
condensed
do
meeting.
with our business and.
And then we start at 10:30.
Yes, we have
I
our,
think 10:30
allow
is
our
a
2
reasonable.
hours and then we, if we are able to wrap up sooner.
If your desire is to have the whole board there, you will need to do a different time, because you do have a hard stop for a board member at 10:30, that's well known. So
Yes,
if you want the whole board there for the interview, you cannot do interviews at 10:30.
that's right.
Except,
Well,
except we've always had to, okay, I understand that
here's the
Janet's
exception
an
to the
issue.
rule. I think that Janet is bless your heart, you have this wonderful obligations that you take care of every Wednesday. And if that's your choice to do that on that
I have
interview
to
Wednesday,
really
it's
dis-
okay. And considering that you're stepping off the board, I would hope that maybe you would not feel offended with it going forward after the board meeting. But I think it's just for everyone to be able to get it done and before noon would be great, but not crazy early in the morning.
So Janet is actually eligible to reapply.
She is.
Yes, she is, because she took an incomplete term for her first term.
But I didn't know.
Yeah, so she is eligible to reapply,
If I want.
yes.
Yeah, until the 24th.
Yeah.
Yep.
You better think about it.
I didn't think it all lot.
Okay, well, didn't know that, so did I take an incomplete term as well then?
I can
I
look, but I
did.
don't know off the top of my head. I will look. I don't think so. I think you've been here for years.
I took Shirley's term. Ursula.
Yeah,
I'll
COVID-
look.
COVID sucked there.
It has been. Michelle sent me a thing so I can actually see. It's
Oh,
really
good.
hard to keep track of.
I bet.
So she has a visual thing that she can show the slots and who filled each slot. So it actually shows if you took part of a partial term.
Did
So
I
Janet-
take over for Julie?
You took over for Deepa.
What's
Yeah.
that name?
Deepa.
And I'm quite certain I took over for Shirley.
Yeah, I'll look.
I honestly don't know.
It's very hard to keep track.
Okay. Well, at this
But the
point,
clerk's office keeps track.
okay.
The other thing we could do is we could do the interviews first and do the board meeting after. So we could do the interviews at 8:30 and do the board meeting following.
I think it's important for everyone who is a board member to be present and for the board meeting. And if you're gonna move on to your other obligation by 10:30, then that would make it so that you're not available for the board meeting. I don't think that's fair to you.
I thought you said there was only a few that are doing the interviews.
We've only got like 4.
Well, that's the question. We don't know yet.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the whole board. So that wouldn't
Well,
make a
who's,
difference.
who's?
If it's
who's
gonna
leaving
go
the
down
board?
to that,
Or
there's,
not leaving,
That's
but
the question.
Maureen is one.
Maureen's reapplying.
Maureen's
Janet.
reapplying.
Janet may be
Janet is a
leaving or she may
possibility.
reapply.
So,
and
Connie is leaving.
Connie's leaving.
Connie's
Okay.
leaving, but Candy is coming back. At least she'll be.
well.
Candy has reapplied.
Yeah, but here's the deal, that leaves you 3 right
But I
there.
think what Ben is getting to is the board members.
Who's left? So,
That leaves
So we have-
Ann,
well,
Karen.
Connie is still, so you have Connie, Karen,
We had Karen, and Ann.
So,
And
Karen.
Connie.
so the point being that if Janet were to reapply, her interview would have to be in time for her to make her obligation.
Right.
We do whatever we need to do for, if we need to
Schedule
make exceptions, we can make exceptions that to if somebody has a time issue. I mean, isn't that what we do anyway?
Sure.
If somebody can't come at that time, we'll make an exception and we'll figure it out.
Another quick question. For the people who have already, like yourself, who have served already for 3 years, do we really have to ask all these questions? I mean,
You have to ask everybody the same question.
really?
Otherwise, it's considered a conflict. Yes.
Oh,
It's,
oh, yeah, I skated through that, I don't remember.
No, yeah.
They've
I got
gotten
these.
more precise.
Well, it's changed.
I think the bottom line is to keep it a continuity throughout, and then it doesn't feel like there's favoritism going on. And I think that's the whole point, is that there isn't clear, concise. And I'm not against that.
It levels the playing field.
So if there's an issue with Janet reapplying, and it's a time conflict, I think with any person applying to the board, we as board members would in fact, under that issue, take and look at it, whether we need to have an additional time for her. I think that's, in this sense, though, I do think that we do have the interviews after the board meeting, because it then puts us right within what the city's telling us that we need to do, and where we're down to 4, it will be 4 instead of 3, but it's still, and we're posting it right when we're posting the board meeting, so it'll be posted with the board meeting that we'll be doing these interviews afterwards, right? Wouldn't it? Couldn't we just post it that way?
I need to figure out how they're posting it, because I know when the Historic Preservation Board did their interviews, that it was not part of their posted meeting. And if we have 4, then it needs
To be posted. If we knock it down to 3, then we don't have to post it.
well, and again, I'd like to see us following the city guidelines, so we'll get
Yes.
clarification on that. Again, with that, my thought is 1 to 2 is not gonna be written in stone. But, so,
We
and
can knock
again,
it,
I don't care, but I think 3 is probably plenty and a good number, in my
Okay.
opinion.
so then if we knock it down to 3, then it shouldn't be an issue that we can put it and do it directly after the board meeting on that day, and we wouldn't have to post it. Do we have 3 volunteers that would wanna interview?
Yeah, I think
So
you have
stick
to
around
ask-
after that
you have
meeting?
to ask Connie also.
Yes, Connie has to
I'll
be on.
volunteer.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm available, but I would like to allow Connie the opportunity if she would like to do that.
First, you'd like to
Yes,
have it
I will.
After 4 of us.
Okay, so-
Okay,
Okay, I think we solved that
Alright, we're good.
issue.
okay.
So
Yeah.
how many minutes is each interview supposed to last?
Park
I
and
think
Rec
it's
Board
up to
said,
us to
Park and
decide.
Rec Board said was planning on 45 minutes.
Per interview?
It sounded like a lot to me.
Per
person?
That's a
My
lot.
first interview
I
was
think
at
that's
5
me.
minutes.
Are y'all changing your
Well,
minds
there-
now about that time?
Yeah.
You say, wait a minute, I'll retract
What?
that, I'm not doing that.
These are pretty straightforward
I
questions.
think 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes.
15 to
each.
20 is
Max.
plenty.
Yeah.
That is my first,
interview.
unless you wanna know my whole life history, should I
Right,
bring
it's not gonna
in my
take,
mother's maiden baby
Right.
pictures?
and 2 sides, and yeah,
I'll say
I'm
my
all-
first
I'm all
interview was
for-
5
I'm all
minutes.
for that.
yeah,
That seems excessive.
that's excessive. We do
10
not-
minutes would be plenty.
Plenty,
I
So
think
if
we
you're
should
on
allow ourselves
15,
15.
have
but
to
10
follow
will probably be
before.
enough.
right, that gives us time to go
I
get
could
coffee.
I mean, we're not
Let's get
interviewing
real.
for a senator to the Congress. you know?
Exactly. Not ready for city
President
council.
of the
I think
United
15
States,
to 20
yeah.
is appropriate, because if you spent 2 minutes on each one of these, not that you would.
Schedule 15
And
to
then
20
you
if it
kind
goes
of
less.
leisure talk in between. I think the 15 to 20 minute time frame
Take
is
schedule
appropriate.
20 and then.
If we narrow it down,
20 minutes.
They had a little talking time.
Yeah, because you don't want to be
because
like
you
a
might
robot.
get a chatty Kathy, like, I'm not gonna name names, but
Chatty what?
chatty person.
That person.
Chatty person, or
Oh, well, you know,
Chatty
it
Marie,
can't be
whatever.
worse than being Karen.
That's right, can't be worse than being
I
Karen.
remember I was so nervous for my first interview and I was in and out of there so quick, I was like, gosh,
I
I didn't have
know.
time to sweat.
Yeah, why am I getting dressed
Well, the
up?
good thing is
Right.
that their city council is trying to
Streamline
have some more,
things.
well, it's streamlined for them, but it's have some more depth on the front end of
Okay,
people
see.
who are involved.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I think in general, it's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think so
Your
too.
guys' feedback is
Mhm.
certainly should have a lot of bearing, and
Mhm.
I'm glad they're going this direction.
Okay, so there we go. Is there any more discussion in regards to the board recruitment deadline and board application interviews?
That's not
Mouthful.
All right, on to new business, club survey questionnaire.
Yes. We pass them on, this way you can take one and pass it. Please. Front side is the letter,
Thank you.
opposite side is the question.
Oh, I got two.
Oh, here, I'll take it then. Is it funny? Oh, yeah, you got it. So if we have to try, I can't.
I want to thank you ladies for adding your questions into this because I think it's great.
Good.
I think it's good. And I know you did, and I know Connie did, and I think that's great.
Can people submit their responses by email?
What is I guess I was thinking it was like a satisfaction survey, but some of the first questions tell me it's probably something based on, for applying for a new grant, is that some of what some of this?
Yeah, if you read the letter. Did you read the letter?
Right.
Now, the question is how to get this out to the clubs. I personally think that we should take it to the clubs and directly. First of all, I think it's hard for people to put off somebody that's standing in front of them and introducing yourself as a board member and saying, would you please fill out this questionnaire? It's important for us. This is why I'm so-and-so from the board. And then I know the clubs meet. I know they've got an agenda of what they're doing. But I think it's important that if we put a face, they're going to be more inclined to do it.
And right then, as
Yeah.
opposed to, eventually.
And because we need this information for our reports. So what do you guys think?
Is there I didn't read it real closely, is there a due date on here?
Yes,
No, November 30th, okay.
that's why the sooner we get this out, the better off everybody is.
Is it, you have, I think at the last meeting, we talked about letting them fill it out at the meeting or something. Couldn't they just like hand it in as they leave?
Absolutely, I don't have a problem with that. That's
Because they're all here.
That's
Clear,
all
yeah.
more reason why I think it's important if we could get board members to step up and say, hey, hi, I am so-and-so from the board. This is why we're doing this. You know, can you, even if you have to read it to them, you know, and hand it and say, this is really important to us and we're really so pleased to have you here, but we need you to be able to answer this truthfully.
Now, is this going to be, and again, I didn't read it clear enough, but will every member of the group fill this out, or are you gonna have one member of the group fill it out?
That's a question.
I think it would be a
I
collective.
think one
A
per
collective.
club, one per club, so it should be done
Response. So-
that day.
One
Whoever-
response.
So, yes,
One
so
response.
whoever leads their club would gather all of that
So-
feedback and
That would be hard, though.
collaboratively
Yeah.
and put it together on one.
on some of these, somebody's happy, somebody's not happy, I mean,
Well, they can share all of that.
I think that's part of the reason why, if you have a personal person, say, you know what? If part of you are happy, great. If part of you aren't, we still wanna know.
And we wanna know why.
We wanna know why. It is more important that you're filling out these questions truthfully and honestly.
so you're gonna get, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how happy are you? Okay, you're gonna have all 5 numbers. Then you're gonna have 5 statements, so couldn't you just have 5, let each person fill out their own?
You mean if there are
And
only
then
5 members in a club, that you want all 5 members
Well,
to
for
do
some of
this?
these, like, some of the top ones are factual, so
Right.
you, obviously, a chairman of the club, but when it gets down to opinion, it's hard to have a consensus.
Well, that's a
Can-
question.
if-
Well,
if
we
there's-
could.
We can make that available if that's what they want.
I doubt all of them will wanna do it.
I would doubt that
I,
too.
you know,
You would know better.
Whatever,
yeah,
we can be accommodating. However they works best for them.
Well, I mean, you still,
We can be
if you're
accommodating.
putting all the answers in a spreadsheet, you'd have 20 answers instead of 5 answers, or, but, still it'd be easier to pull averages.
Well, I-
Just leave the option.
I think we could
Say-
leave
An
the
additional
option.
sheet of paper if you've
So
got more
if
comments.
if, okay, say Ann, you go to a meeting and there's 12 members, okay? We could do 12 copies of this and ask them to fill it in. And then we could then, so depending on what they
I mean,
want
how serious do you want each person's opinion?
to do, we want the
You don't want,
information.
because you might, if the person who fills it out is extremely negative, but everybody else is very happy,
Mhm.
you don't want that kind of thing.
It's a balance, so, okay.
If the grouchy one fills it out.
Yeah, that's what I.
I think it should go to
I think we
the
can be available. I think
chairperson.
We can be there
I-
and
you would
share
know.
with the
You would know.
Club. what we're there for and why, and we can have multiple copies available and kind of leave it at them. Would you like to
I
do
think that's
this
what we do.
collaboratively, or would you like to individually complete your own, or would some of you like to collaborate in one person? It's okay, we can accommodate.
Yes,
I
yes,
think
you get a
you just
number.
let them decide.
Yeah.
And I think a
Exactly.
1-minute introduction and drop them off and go.
Uh-huh.
Because most of them, they're
There
on a
is-
mission to do what they're there to
Right.
do.
Exactly.
Which is fine, but I still think it's important that we do that, even if it's just the 1 to 2 minute introduction. I think it's
No
key
problem with that.
into getting it done, and to getting it done in a timely manner.
Mhm.
And then I like, Anne, thank you for your input on that, because if we have the paper there, we can quickly hand it out. So we might just get 2 members that wanna complain
It's
about
like,
everything.
who wants to fill this out?
And that's fine.
Mhm.
And that's fine. So whoever would like to fill it out, great. If you would want to do it more as a collective group, great.
Or else if it's opinion and you do it collective, some people aren't gonna say anything, because if they obviously don't agree with what everybody else is saying, they'll just be quiet, don't say
Yeah.
anything.
And it's
And
more,
then you don't report that.
and then we're missing that information.
Exactly, you're missing that piece of information.
We want the information, that's key.
On number 10,
Yes.
technically, we don't have any onus whatsoever to do service during the meetings. We're providing a meeting place.
Mhm.
We do that for a few clubs,
So
but
just Jacqueline not
They could
provide
say
services
NA,
for the club?
not
Does
NA.
she not provide water and?
we get them water at the beginning, but that's it. The only 2 clubs, well, the only club we do any service for anymore is Questers. And an occasional holiday lunch.
Can you insert the word any? How would you rate?
Yeah, that would be fine.
How would you
Any
rate
service
any
during the
service?
Instead of
meetings,
the, and
that's fine. But technically, we don't have any onus to do service. We're providing a meeting place.
good point.
But you don't supply coffee or,
Nope, for the most part, no. If they have refreshments, they bring their own. Bridge provides coffee and Jacqueline makes it, but we don't have any obligation to do
How about
that.
if you start the sentence with if applicable, comma, how would you rate? If it's not, you said a few get it, so they can fill it out, but the few that don't get it, just put it not applicable.
Anything else?
So I'm gonna, instead of, since I'm putting in if applicable, I'm leaving rate the services instead of any. It applies, how would you rate the services? So I'm just gonna do that. Okay.
I just have a question on the letter itself, in the second paragraph. Including fulfilling our mission to ensuring the continued happiness. Somehow happiness doesn't.
We can start
seem like-
serving alcohol.
Right. That's a good point.
I would
Let's
change the
just
word
change that word to
satisfaction.
satisfaction, that's a better.
Satisfaction,
Yeah.
yeah. What number was that?
Satisfaction instead of happiness.
Oh, turn it over. And it's right there.
Oh, yeah.
Satisfaction, no, I did
And there's just something about it, just.
Sure.
Very happy.
Happiness is their
I like that.
satisfaction.
And the other comment I would have is we have the answers to the first 5 questions
That's fine.
for every club.
That's fine.
Yeah, so
If
that's
they're
just
going-
factual, that's not really.
Right.
That's
Fine,
fine.
not
but if
when
they're
we-
going to be filling you out, especially Anne, if they're any individual that's gonna be filling it out, it's okay.
It'll be easier for
Yeah.
us to look at it that way.
Yeah.
So, although I do like the term happiness because it makes me happy to come here. So there you go.
They are happy.
Yeah, the first 5 questions are all part of their contract
There you go.
with the house, or their agreement with the house.
Okay, so is everybody else okay with?
Glad you're doing this.
So then there's the next thing we need to know. Kathy went over the club's meeting, so we can.
I can send you the club schedule. Who would like that?
Thank you. Me, I would. Anybody else that wants to help me do this?
I'll help you do it. Anybody else?
I'm happy to help if.
Okay.
Janet, you wanna
Does
help,
anybody-
don't you?
Huh?
You wanna help, don't you?
Don't you want to help?
Help what?
Come to
Go
the
talk
club
to the
meeting and
clubs.
just hand them this thing and
Oh,
say, it's no big deal.
Maybe, oh, a little.
well, and if push comes to shove, we can distribute it too.
Well,
I'd
I'm
have
happy
to
to
know
do
the
it.
schedule, I guess.
It's not that simple.
Yeah.
It depends on the schedule.
How many clubs do you have?
7.
Yeah, let's see.
It's not like a big deal. Maybe they'll do 1 or 2.
I'll send it out.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
And then we'll divvy it up and we'll go from there, guys. But if for some reason there's a conflict with my medical stuff, I can't do all of it. So, but others,
No problem.
I would recommend it's just one person. I don't think we should overwhelm them during their own meetings.
I
No.
agree.
Oh, no, just one person per meeting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Providing a
Yeah.
number of people.
Us.
Total.
We're not,
exactly.
not one person's doing all of it.
Well, and the other comment I would make is sometimes they don't show up. So you might show up in there, I mean, not very often, but once in a while.
Once in a while, you just cancel.
Twisted Stitchers, we had one person last time.
Well,
You know,
catch
because
them.
there was something going on and they didn't cancel the meeting, so. It doesn't happen very often,
Right,
but it
but it
does
could
happen
happen.
occasionally.
Okay, but we'll do our best to get out there, and if we go from that point, that'd be great. Alrighty. Thank you, Karen, for doing the survey, and thank you for everybody's input on the questions. On to other business. Do we have any other business that needed to be included?
I have at least one thing. We had a walking tour from the museum, and one of the attendees at the walking tour was a gentleman by the name of Thomas Bryant, and he's a docent at the Stanley Museum up in Estes Park.
Yes.
But he's also very interested in steam cars and turntables. So the point came up that we didn't know whether or not the Locomobile had a reverse gear or not. And he went and did some research for us. So he got a note, he sent a note and received a response from a woman by the name of Susan Davis. And she, I'm trying to remember what she's a person who does, hang on just a second. I'm just gonna read the notes, it's probably easier that way. Hi, I heard you speak in Estes Park about a year ago and hope that you can answer a couple of questions. I give tours of the home there. The first garage turntable that I heard of was, I'm trying to make sure I'm reading the right order. Yeah, this was from Thomas to Susan. The first garage turntable that I heard about was George Eastman's in Rochester, New York. I know he was a fan of the Stanleys. The second was FO's in Estes. Yesterday I toured the Callahan Mansion in Longmont, Colorado. They also had a turntable, and their first car was, he said, a 1903 Locomobile, but it was a 1902. Was a chain drive Stanley Locomobile capable of going in reverse. I've heard it said that FO and Flora used to reverse to descend Mount Washington, but I think that sounds unlikely. It is my understanding that at some point, reverse was a possibility by reversing the cylinder firing order. If so, when did that happen? Thank you for the information you can provide. And she sent back a note, and here's her response. Hi, Tom. Nice to hear from you. Thanks for reaching out. FO had a turntable in his home in Newton, probably by 1898. Eastman and Callahan probably both got the idea from him. He may have had difficulty turning his head to back out of an enclosed space. Not sure. Stanley's Locomobile steam train engines all have reverse.
Oh.
It's the nature of a two-cylinder engine in the case of steam cars. Reverse is simply the action of reversing the valving. Locomobiles, Stanleys, only have 2 gears, forward and reverse, but we would use the word gear just because that's what people understood. And FO and Flora did indeed use reverse coming down Mount Washington, as I did the 2 days I drove up and down in 2003 in our 1909 Model R, and she sent a picture. Very tricky business to be sure, and not for the faint of heart, especially on 8 miles on an average 12% grade. You might say exhausting. And then she sent a picture of herself driving the car.
In other words, she backed down?
They backed down?
Well, no, they didn't back down. They used the reverse gear and it's not a gear. They used they reversed the cylinder to slow it down. So it didn't really have a gear. The other thing he told me when I talked to him is that it went just as fast in reverse as it did in forward. So it was problematic because obviously you don't want to go in reverse as fast as you go in forward.
No.
So reverse gear, at least in the early incantations in these vehicles, was very problematic.
So that's why it was more, it was
Better to drive forward.
to drive forward, and that's why they had the.
Yeah.
Get on a blast.
Can you imagine putting that in reverse going full speed in that enclosed space?
No.
No.
Well, and especially when you don't really know how
Down
to
this
drive.
driveway.
They were just learning to drive.
That could explain how she flipped her car.
Yeah, you certainly could.
Okay.
So it did have a reverse.
It had not a gear. They
Not a
had
gear.
2 cylinders, and they reversed the cylinders to put it. They
It's almost like a
switched the
brake.
cylinders to put it in reverse. Karen.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you for that information.
So I thought it was very interesting.
It is.
I'm so glad that it's
That's
really
so
neat
interesting.
how
It's more
things
information.
spark up out of
Conversations, just like random
and I'm
conversations.
so pleased that we are including the brief tour of the house and Eric Mason's tours. I think it really is an outreach that
It's
is
just
very.
Well, maybe
is
it's
very-
something we can update in our docent tour too, because I know I've stated that it didn't have a reverse, so it'd be great to be able to update that and also state that the speed would be the same. Can you imagine? Can you imagine putting it in reverse? You become the same speed as if you're going forward. That problematic. I would put it through. I would put it through the garage every time. So yeah, that's good to know. Thank you very much. That's a highlight.
We also did a school tour this month.
Oh, great.
Desiderata
Nice.
came and they were cute. A bunch of 8th graders.
Oh.
Very interested, very involved. It was fun.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Great.
And I came through the museum too.
And that's done, and that's good. And that was done this month in October?
September, I think it's on September.
So does the museum kind of partner with us in that? You know, to send tours over here?
He got a private request to do a
Oh,
tour,
okay.
and he just called and asked if he could bring him.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
Any way that we get.
I'm trying to remember when it was. It was,
And
I
then
don't
if we
remember
can
if
get
it
those
was,
numbers.
I was just gonna say.
it
can
was,
that be-
929. It's on,
It's on in the reports, but is it in the manager's report?
no.
Can we
Well,
put
this
that kind of stuff in the manager's report, please?
No,
Because
it is
it's
part of the
helpful.
manager's report. It's right here.
It's included.
Well, what I was asking.
The manager's report is as long as it's gonna get. Because I do all the other stuff. So do you want all the detail or just some of it?
Right.
You know,
It's just helpful to be able to
it's,
listen.
it's in here. Okay. It's
That's
in
the
here.
Middle High School chart says right there. 12 attendees.
Thank you.
Future
Just
agenda items.
identify that it's youth.
You.
Highlight it, I guess.
We're
We're at
we're at
7. Future agenda.
No, no, no.
Yes.
Where on that is that? So I can just highlight it. Where is that?
I'm not finding it myself.
8th grade walking tour, okay.
But it says 8th grade, so that's helpful. Okay, moving on to future house agenda items. Open houses, January.
It will be done in January.
That means we're gonna
talk about it in
Talk about
January.
it in January.
And Club Affair, we're gonna talk in January, and the Christmas pack up in November, so is there anything else that we need to add on to our future agenda items? Okay. Gosh, ladies, thank you for your time. Let's look at adjourning. Can I get a?
It's 10:16 a.m. We're adjourned.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. Thank you.